Welcome to the Hot Girl School, the podcast where we redefine confidence and go way beyond the reflection you see in the mirror.
We're your hosts, Lauren and Danielle, here to empower you to embrace your inner radiance because confidence is so much more than looks.
Whether you're strutting into an event or conquering the boardroom, join us as we explore topics like self-love, inner strength, and owning your unique journey to confidence.
So grab your favorite drinky and turn up that volume because you're about to unleash your true potential.
Hey hotties, school is now in session. Today, we're diving into why celebrating your success isn't just fun, it's essential. So often, we set goals and move right on to the next thing without pausing to acknowledge how far we've come. But celebration is more than a moment of joy, it's a powerful source of confidence and momentum. So, as we're just a few months into the year, we feel it's perfect time to reflect on what we've accomplished and how to make celebration a regular part of our lives. Let's get into it. Okay, so super cool fact. Did you know that when you celebrate small wins, it actually releases dopamine in your brain and activates your reward center? So that reinforces confidence. So do you ever notice or do anything when you're like thinking about a win and how it makes you feel?
I don't celebrate a lot of wins, but I do notice the energy. It kind of like puts me in a happier mood when I move to the next task.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, okay, that felt good.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I just achieved something, even if it's small, or even like, do you feel like checking something off your to-do list can feel like such a win? Like, okay. And then you look at the to-do list at the end of the day and you're like, okay, I got most of the stuff done I wanted to accomplish. That's a win for me.
I love
I know.
a check mark
Crossing
or
it
a cross
off.
off. Like you can feel it right now. Like it's one of those things we can all relate to because you can feel how good it feels
That feels so
to
good.
do that.
Yes.
Okay, so we're a few months into the new year, right?
Mhm.
And we've all seen the like new year, new me, here are my goals, which is all great. We should totally goal set. But what I often find is that friends, clients, we really miss like celebrating the small stuff.
Yeah.
And that helps us be confident. So some of the practices that I take, like I literally write down one thing I'm happy about each day. I have like this little journal and it's like, it's called your small wins.
Okay.
And I write down one thing that like either I'm proud of myself about, like maybe I showed up great for my kids. Maybe my husband and I did something that we've been working on. Like I had a win at work. I had a good, I kept my workouts, like whatever it is, like something to recognize like, okay.
Is this at the end of the day?
Yeah.
Okay. So you sit and reflect.
Yep.
A little bit. Do you ever write more than one? Do you ever?
No. So it's like, it's daily wins. It's literally called daily wins. It's
Do
so
you
cute.
ever like not have anything?
Yeah. sometimes like, life happens and you don't do it. And I love it because it's not calendared. So it's not like, oh, I missed it. Now I'm going to see that miss.
Right.
But I really try to think about something positive every single day.
And it's probably a habit at this point. So you look forward to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you ever like in the middle of the day, you're like, oh, I'm going to put that down tonight? Like really like future thinking?
Sometimes like, especially I feel like when you're in that like new year sense, you're really good at it. But I feel really passionate about celebrating small wins because we're all about helping people build confidence.
I know.
And sometimes we get to the place of the life that like once was only a dream and we miss it. We miss the moment because we're like on to the next, or we're so driven and it's okay, what's the next thing that I can accomplish? And if you start to intentionally sit down and go through, like when I went through 2024 with my husband, we do this like reflection thing every year. I was like, holy shit, we did a lot of stuff in 2024. And that's a really good feeling to sit and go, wow, like we did it.
Especially when you're in it.
Yeah.
And you're feeling like, oh, I haven't made any progress this year. I'm not getting towards my goals, whatever it is. We haven't been on enough trips, whatever it is.
Yep.
So when you can sit and look at the whole calendar year, yeah, that's like, woo, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, I'm not a big win celebrator. For me, it's a very simple in the moment when I'm doing a task and it used to feel hard and I'm like, oh, this actually just got a little bit easier, or it's
Yeah.
more familiar, or I'm noticing like I can make my way around the software easier, whatever it is. It just becomes more familiar. I'm like, okay, I remember, a few months ago or last year when this was more challenging, and just practice and being in there, it helps. So that's kind of I'm not a big win celebrator. That's about all I got.
Okay, so this episode's for you. If you're like nodding your head and you're like, yes, me too, because
Yeah.
there's so much data that backs up how important it is to celebrate the wins and that it actually boosts your mood. It makes you feel happier, which we all want to be happy, right? And happiness can be fleeting because we have hard days. But when you actually intentionally sit down and celebrate some wins, it really does boost your mood, boost your confidence, and make you see how far you've come so that you
Yeah.
don't miss those good moments of life that you worked so hard for.
Right. And so it's become this thing in culture where you just like steamroll everything to
Mhm.
keep moving forward to get to the next goal. Yes, we're talking about celebrating wins, but people just don't stop. You're like, okay, I did this. The problem is that you don't actually feel any better when you are this high achiever trying to get the goals. We'll put it in the form of money. Like,
Mhm.
as soon as I make this amount, I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be set. Like, no, you're not. I hate to tell you, but you make the money and you're like, okay, life's still the same. It
Yeah.
doesn't really feel that good. And the intangible things that you can't buy are what make you happy.
Yeah, and so I think that I mean that one those that hits home for me. So I had a massive like career milestone where I sold my company for a lot of money
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't feel good. Like it
Right?
didn't feel the way that I thought that it should feel. And so if you're feeling like you're hitting these milestones maybe professionally and it's not bringing you the happiness that you like put the pressure on, like, oh, when I get that one thing I'm going to feel so great. What I've learned is that it's because you're out of alignment. You're chasing something that isn't really something you're passionate about,
Right.
and there's some work to do there to be like, okay, why am I doing this thing? Because if you set out, it could be different. Like you set out to do it for a certain reason, and now all of a sudden you're doing it to please somebody else, or because you told friends you were going to do it and you think you have to, or they're going to judge you, or whatever the case may be. So it was eye-opening for me to go through that
Mm-hmm.
because it forced me to do a lot of inner work to go, okay, professionally, how do I want to show up so it lights me up and it doesn't have to just be tied to making money?
But most people do. That's the thing. Everybody's goals are around a dollar amount. And in
Which is
order,
fine,
it
right?
is fine, but you have to make sure. I mean, put it on a smaller scale. We're going to put it into shopping terms. Have you ever gone out and bought something that you had your eye on, you wanted it, you saved for it, you got it, you get it home, and you don't take it out of the bag for like 6 days, 7 days, 8 days because you got home and you're like, okay, I just, excuse me, I just spent all this money on something that I thought was going to make me happy and I didn't. That's kind of how it feels when you make a lot of money. If you are not in alignment with what you're doing
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that that's why celebrating your wins is
along the
is
way.
so important because it's not just like giving yourself the pat on the back and being proud of the accomplishments that you've made. It's also an indication and a checkpoint to see if you're still in alignment
Right.
with what you're doing. Because if it's not feeling good, if you're not feeling proud of it, if you notice like, huh, I haven't done that. I haven't sat down and been like, cool, that was awesome. You might be chasing something that's not for you, that doesn't make sense. And monetarily, like, yes, we all need to make a living. We all
Hmm.
need to survive. Absolutely. But don't be afraid of making a change that's going to
Right.
allow you to celebrate wins along the way and feel really, really good about it. Like, that's one of the important parts of celebrating along the way.
Right. And there are indicators along the way of when you are out of alignment like for me, like like once a month there I was getting pinched nerves, and at the
Yeah.
last one the pinched nerve turned into a frozen neck for a week, and that made me realize I need to stop speaking to myself a certain way. I need to start doing this. I need to whatever it is, make clear big changes because that allowed me to change my lifestyle essentially, and
Yeah.
that was a win in itself. Like, okay, I'm making the change of being work 100% to like being work 70% and allowing myself quality time with my boyfriend, my cats, my friends, doing things that I actually love instead of feeling like I always have to steamroll again,
To the
straight
next
through
thing.
every single
Yeah.
thing to make it to the next spot. It doesn't feel good. It really doesn't.
No, and I think that with social media, we feel this pressure, especially like professionally, to keep going or it's not enough and that is why when you sit and celebrate or you
Mm-hmm.
sit and reflect, right? Because it's also a form of reflection.
Correct.
You'll start to see these things and to notice these things, and then it allows you to make change. But if you're just plowing through and powering through, you're going to miss it, and then you're going to wake up and go, what the hell am I doing? I'm not even happy.
And speaking of social media, we don't see the backside. We are not behind the scenes with
Yeah,
people. We know how we feel. Maybe we know the meltdowns we're having. We know that we feel like we're not good enough. We have all these things, and all we're doing is comparing like what feels like our shitty moment to somebody else's just like cranking. Right. And
well,
you're
and
like,
that can be
ah,
like you go to celebrate your win, right? And then you hop on social media and you start scrolling and you're like, now your win feels small because of
correct.
comparison. And comparison, I will tell you right now, is the thief of joy.
Yeah.
It is easier said than done. We've all done it. We've all
Yeah.
sat and compared and been like, why this and why that, and not fair. And guess what? Life's not fair. True, harsh truth. But by doing the act of sitting down to try and start celebrating, you're going to notice all these little things that are happening, and you're not going to miss the moment and let it fly by.
Right. I mean, we're all living in the reality that we created. We're all living in the reality that we wanted. And that's another reflection point to
Yeah,
stop and say, oh my gosh, I have the boyfriend, I have the life, I have the kids, I have whatever it is that I wanted, and I'm living in that dream. So don't forget to be grateful for getting yourself to the dream that you once wanted, even though the dream in the future you're on your way to.
totally. I mean, I can share even just last night, we were having my husband and I, we had fed the kids, we're on our phones, and I look at him and I go, phones down.
Yeah.
And he's like, what? I'm like, they're never going to be this age again. Like, let's go do something with our kids. I know we both had a long day, but we are going to look back and like wish for these moments with our little humans. And we sat and played Sorry, and I like documented it. And that's what I wrote down last night. Like, I'm
Right.
thankful for a husband that's willing to put the phone down and go. And like, and literally, I'm sitting there playing Sorry, going, oh my gosh, like I used to dream of this
Having the
life
family and
and
sitting at
I'm in
home.
it. Like, this feels so good.
Yeah.
And if you're not aware, I wouldn't have had that pause and that moment of gratitude that was that dopamine hit that then I woke up today and was like, man, life's good.
And it wasn't work related.
Totally.
That's the thing. I feel like wins people really associate with work. It can
Mm-hmm.
be a personal win. I
Anything.
hosted a fucking Christmas 2 weeks ago, and like I'm not a host, but like it turned out
Hence the
great.
F bomb.
Yeah. Like, and it was such a good win. And all my friends are like, how'd it go? How was hosting? And they actually were so happy for me that it turned out well. So
Yeah.
it's just like,
That's
nobody
a
would
win.
ever know that, but it was like I looked at my boyfriend and I was like, okay, we did it. We had fun. It was a success. Do you want to do it again? So like we got to figure out if we like hosting now,
Yeah.
But that was just a win, and it was a win with someone. And I think having someone to share it with, or somebody who knows you well enough,
Yeah.
they also probably lift you up a little bit more than you would lift yourself up.
Yeah.
And that also gives you extra perspective on, okay, maybe I should be more happy, or maybe I have come further than I think.
Or just simply bringing it back to gratitude, right? Like I have so much to be grateful for. Like that's a hit in and of
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
So we've shared a couple of ideas of how you can reflect, sharing with a friend like you said, doing the daily journal, or you can do it on your phone. There's so many great apps for that now. Another practice that I personally use and love that you might like too is we used to do it annually. So my husband and I would sit down and we have like 18 questions that we go through over coffee, and we reflect on the year to try and help us see like how much of our goals. It's an accountability tactic, but it also is really fun to celebrate the wins, and we're going to start doing that quarterly.
Okay.
So
Ask yourselves the same 18 questions 4 times a year.
No, we'll probably adjust the questions a little bit.
Okay.
But they're really great questions, and I'm happy to share them with any of our listeners who wants them. Just reach out to us at the Hot Girl School on Instagram or any of our socials, and I can send it out. But it's a really, really great tool if you're like, I don't know where to start. It's a great starting point for
you
sure.
can do it with yourself. Let's be clear. You don't need anyone
Totally.
else. I mean, sitting and checking in with yourself is always going to be number one. Like
Yep.
sometimes the goals, like I always have on the back of my phone, it's usually like my manifestation.
Mhm.
And one time I sat down and it was all business and it was like I wanted to have X amount of Instagram follower. Like it was, and I put it on my phone and the next couple of days I was like, this is so stupid. None of it was
It's okay
happy
to adjust.
or fulfilling. And I
Yeah.
went back and I had to meditate on it and I like pulled cards and really, what is it that I actually want?
Yep.
And so I redid it and it was so much more in alignment and I felt like happy and it was like, okay, if anybody catches this, I'm proud of this one. You know?
Totally. And
You
like
can like so there's a
you can
tactic.
pivot.
There's a
Yeah.
tactic right there. Go into Canva, get the little iPhone grab and make your screensaver your what it is that you want to manifest so that you can remember. Hell,
Yeah.
you could make it just remember to celebrate every day.
Remember
Like
to celebrate. Yep.
anything, like there's so many ways to make sure that you are celebrating yourself because everybody's just so wonderful.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the main takeaway of today's episode, right?
Right.
Is don't forget to celebrate your wins. You're a few months into the year. Look back at how far you've come
Mm-hmm.
and check your checkpoints, right? Check your alignment, reassess your goals for the rest of the year. And if you haven't met them, like maybe they weren't realistic. So now we need to pivot and adjust. Or maybe you didn't shoot high enough and you're crushing it and you need to challenge yourself a little bit more.
Right.
It's a great time to do a check in and to celebrate the wins along the way and make sure you're still in alignment for the rest of the year.
Yeah. And bring that excitement that you had going into the year into this second quarter.
Yes.
Because I think a lot of us forget. We lose that gumption. It
Yeah.
was like 2025 is here and you're so excited. And then all of a sudden you get back into the grind, back into the work. And all of a sudden you kind of like plateau again at the bottom.
Yes.
Like let's bring that
Figure out,
back.
yeah, figure out what keeps your mojo with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And maybe change it every quarter.
All right.
All right. Thanks, Hotties.
Have a good one. We'll see you next time.